freight efficiency with NACFE's Mike Roche and Friends.
In episode 94, we're joined by Jordan Spradling. He's Vice President of Transportation and Logistics at Pilot Flying J, where we talk about the history of the travel center chain, the challenges of balancing the various needs of travel center customers, and keeping the sites updated. He also talks about Pilot's role in shaping the future of energy, the need to look at all the energy solutions during this period of transition, the testing of hydrogen fuel cell trucks to all hydrogen, and encourages everyone to be optimistic about the future. Today we have joining us Jordan Spradling. Jordan's Vice President of Transportation and Logistics at Pilot Flying J. Real excited to have you on today, Jordan.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thank you.
Pilot, in your responsibility even, you both supply fuel and amenities at truck stops. I think I have this right. But you also operate a really large fleet. So you come at this, I believe, with both a, kind of with two aspects of what we're going to talk about. That is powering trucks and freight movement, as well as running a big fleet themselves. So before we dive into that, I always ask my friends on this podcast, how did we become friends? Do you remember?
Gosh, I was thinking back when we did meet, and I believe it was my old boss, David Hughes, who came to Pilot from Covenant Transport. I think was a longtime supporter. He originally had my role heading up the trucking fleet and shifted over to run our sales division. And when he made that transition several years back, he made it a point to introduce the two of us and get me clued into what was going on at NACFE. We've been longtime members and friends ever since.
So tell us about Pilot at kind of the highest level. What's its history? And then what do you see as the challenges going forward for you and the industry of that Pilot's in?
Yeah, sure. So Pilot has a long history. First off, founded in 1958 by Jim Haslam and grew over a long period of mergers and acquisitions and purchasing some mom and pops, certainly building a lot of our own stores. But now we have over 850 locations across the U.S. and Canada. And now most recently purchased by Berkshire Hathaway is now our 100% owner as of last year. So really excited for our new parent. They've given us a lot of resources to grow, and especially as we look towards kind of this daunting future that we're going to talk about in the energy transition, they provide a lot of value in that piece as well. 12 billion gallons of fuel we sell every year, and of that, 1.3 billion is a renewable type of fuel. I think we're one of the largest renewable fuels providers. Huge restaurant operator. I think we're one of the top restaurant operators in the country, and we serve 1.2 million guests a day. So just huge scale of our operation is impressive.
Well, it is, and our fuel use is a tiny bit of that. But I will say that, part of what motivates Letty and I to live like we do is to experience the industry from, a truck driver's viewpoint. And one of the things we learned is, we started with a F-250 pickup truck and a big fifth wheel, and now we're into a motorhome pulling a small car. But these are big pieces of equipment and not easy to get around. So, it's not as easy to pull into a grocery store or a Walmart or a shopping mall. And what you do to help truckers, navigate off the highway, from signage to the fuel islands to how you come in and get food and different things, maybe spend the night, take a shower, all that. I mean, it's hugely important to the industry. I mean, just because you're so close to it, I mean, what's been the, technology to be able to either pay at the pump, or we even select which pump to go to, or you select it for us as the one that might have the lowest queue times. But, on the truck stop side, or I guess should call them travel centers, right? I mean, what's the, separate from the fueling that we'll get into in a minute, what's some of the big challenges and opportunities in the space of running? Is it real estate? Is it keeping up with technologies? I mean, what would you say are some of those?
Yeah, of course, we will talk about the energy transition, probably our biggest challenge at the moment. But I would say just continuing to be what our customers want at all times. We've seen trucking evolve over the years of the types of consumers that drive trucks and what they're looking for when they stop, and really trying to change ourselves to meet those needs. And lately, certainly parking spaces are such a high demand item and trying to select properties and locations that are right off the interstate that provide the kind of parking that we need for our customers. I think we have over 70,000 parking spaces around the country, but it seems to never be enough. And our goal is to keep growing and meeting that demand, meeting the changing food tastes and demands, keeping our sites updated. You know, when you have a network of that size, we have to invest a lot of money every year in revamping, upgrading, fixing up these sites. We call it the New Horizons project here, but essentially spending some $300 or $400 million every year fixing up some of these sites. And that's just to stay relevant with our customer and make sure that we're an industry leader. You know, you mentioned technology, another challenge. We have an app that most of our customers live on. They're able to do things like, reserving parking spaces. They can see which lanes of fueling have, the least queue where they're able to get through faster. We realize that, as you described, we are the home away from home for these customers, and our app and these other tools really try to make their lives easier.
Before we dive into the energy transition and what it means to think about electricity and hydrogen and natural gas, just talk about your career. I mean, why do you stick with this, and what is it about this this work that motivates you personally, Jordan?
Yeah, a little about me. So I've been at Pilot for a little over 13 years, but actually that's not the full story. I started at Pilot as an intern during college, and really never at the time thought I would come back and work after school. I was in industrial engineering, really wanted to be an engineer, or so I thought. But my mind was always on efficiency and working puzzles and solving problems. And so graduated from University of Tennessee, industrial engineering, went down that field for a few years and realized, gosh, I want to be in something more fast-paced. I want to be in the middle of a logistical puzzle to solve every day. I needed something to give me more excitement. So I had some connections back with Pilot, reached out and came back about 13 years ago and sort of never looked back. For me, the fun part is the challenge every day of that logistical puzzle. And just kind of some amazing stats about what we do. At a typical store, we might have maybe 24 hours of fuel storage on site. And so each store is going to need 4 or 6 loads of fuel every day, timed just right every day to keep from running out. And some stores do 12 or 13 loads of fuel every day. And so just the timing, the logistics, and making all that happen. And the world of trucking, trucks break down, drivers call off, traffic. Our job is to rise above all of that and make this puzzle work every day. So I'd say that piece certainly moves me first, but the second piece, which I love, is we're talking about our future at Pilot, what we call shaping the future of energy. That's one of our key drivers of our business going forward, is we want to shape the future of energy. And I think that wording is specific for a reason. We don't just want to ride along behind whatever's happening. We want to actually be involved in shaping what's to come, whether that's electric, hydrogen, whether CNG makes a return, whatever that may be. We want to be at the forefront of that. And that's fun for me every day to feel like I'm truly a part of something special.
Yeah, it's just very common to what motivates me too, Jordan. And you've got really, before I forget it, you've got I don't know if you call it this, but you've got the front of the house with passenger cars and consumers coming into the stores and buying gasoline, and you got the back for heavy trucks, and both are going through these energy transitions. So, right? I mean, you've got both to execute.
Absolutely, and actually, we view this as a positive for us in that we've already started on converting parts of the front of the house to focus on EV. We did a partnership with GM, General Motors, where we're essentially out there building. Our goal is to get to 500 locations with fast EV chargers. And we're thinking ahead, building 350 kilowatt chargers at these locations. And the learnings we've had from dealing with utilities and speccing the technology and running the lines underground that prepare you for a future that you can't even imagine at the moment, all these things we're taking from the car side and preparing for what we're doing on the heavy duty side. So we view the transition as a nice phase in to really help us prepare ourselves and learn at a small scale and apply it at a big scale.
Oh, that's a great point. And I've seen a few of those car charging locations on, on the front of the house. It's going to be easy. I keep coming back to real estate, just places to put all this stuff. We're going to get that probably here in a minute, but
that's right.
At the front of the store, sometimes those are already full with gas fueling. Sometimes you have an RV fueling up in the front, or propane and some other services. So there's not much space. So let's just get into that energy transformation piece for not only the truck stop, but for your fleet of trucks. You can approach this question kind of any way, but, I guess fundamentally we're going from kind of gasoline and maybe a little diesel up front, all diesel in the back, to now potentially a number of fuels that will need to be charged at these travels, or need to be, dispensed at these fueling stations. So how do you not have like oh my God, what do we do sort of thinking going on? Or maybe you do right now. So how are you viewing that? And what are you doing right now to move to the future, as you said?
Yeah, certainly we do have a little bit of that. As you mentioned, we do have some large footprint sites, but there's always a competing demand for what to do with the available space. Parking, as I mentioned, is already a concern in the industry, and you look at essentially taking away some spaces for hydrogen, for EV charging, and then we're building out shop networks as part of our Southern Tire Mart partnership. All of these things are competing for space on our properties, and our goal is to try to figure out where to do these things and how much to do them and what sites make sense. So it's certainly a daunting challenge. And kind of to switch gears and talk about my fleet at Pilot, our fleet that we have. So we have a fleet of 1,500 trucks, 2,500 drivers that haul primarily diesel, gasoline, renewable products for ourselves and some other large retail customers. And these trucks are on the road 24/7. We slip seat them all. They're running dual shifted. And that's an interesting challenge for us as we look to convert our fleet to what might be coming next. Certainly our duty cycles, as I mentioned, where we're running them 24/7, we're weighted out on every load to 80,000 pounds. These things present some challenges, certainly that we know our customers are facing. And as you mentioned, it's kind of a neat use case that we can focus on the needs of our fleet and learn from that and say, okay, here's these things we learned that when we get ready to serve our customers with these new energy sources, we can hopefully approach it with a little bit of a smarter approach.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I two things kind of come to mind when you said that. I mean, if I think about electric trucks and time it takes to charge, even if we're at, half a megawatt or megawatt kind of charging, you still have lots of trucks trying to gain that, energy, while they're coming, quickly, right? I mean, I didn't say that.
Yeah. So interesting stat on that. If I could just think about a theoretical world where we transition one of our average travel centers. So we've got a site in Fontana, California, for example, and we know the power demand issues in California. So this site will do 500 100-gallon fills of diesel every day. Okay, so 500 customers come in, average fill 100 gallons. Just for simple math, 100 gallons is about equivalent of a megawatt of energy if you were to convert that over. So if you got to this theoretical world to convert this travel center, we would have to do 500 1-megawatt fills of energy every day at this travel center. So when you start thinking about, 1 megawatt can power 700 homes, you start doing the math on what it would take just to transition that one site. And by the way, our competitors are at that same block, down the street, across the street. Right. So you start thinking of the scale of that problem, and that's why we think that EV will certainly be part of the solution, but we need to look at all solutions for this transition, all the ones we described before, whether it's hydrogen, whether it's EV, CNG, whether it's a transition fuel like biodiesel, renewable diesel. We think it's all of the above just because of the daunting scale of that math I described.
No, absolutely. We're totally aligned there. And I think, as the industry's first been able to really understand and look at battery electric trucks, I mean, their availability, They're a little more straightforward in, plug them in and go. Smaller vans and step vans and medium duty box trucks, those things that'll be on the front of the house for you. And then, growing into smaller, short distances. But you get into, very quickly these longer hauls, and also whether it's a return to base operation or an over the road operation. And then lastly, and, really your fuel trucks, pose like all of the major risks. I mean, very little stoppage time or queue time because of the slip seating nature. They're running all the time. Can't afford, or it's very costly to lose weight in payload. On and on and on. It becomes kind of the biggest challenge. And so I do think, even though I suggested you might have, well, I didn't suggest deer in the headlights, but a daunting task, as I guess what you called it. It's good to have that sort of big challenge, because now you can sort of then figure out, okay, well, what are the smaller ones? What are the ones that are ready for things now, and go execute while you got I guess, the eye on the prize of this really hard part of the market to decarbonize. And that's, long haul trucking, whether it's return to base or not.
Right. Yeah. And just to touch on that, we do have some segments of our fleet in California under a division that we purchased called SC Fuels, that has some trucks that are more in that medium duty case that are not run 24/7, where we're looking at those transitions to EV in that case. Whereas, for our heavier duty operation at the moment, based on duty cycles, we're looking at hydrogen as a solution there. But it's certainly nice to be able to be watching both. And most importantly, I would say partnering with folks that can help us transition on both. So I think you'll hear a lot of folks say, you can't do this alone. We mentioned that we partnered with GM on the passenger car side. We've also had discussions with OEMs such as Volvo on the heavy duty side, where we've agreed together to start sharing some information of our customers and what the needs are. And it takes those kinds of partnerships, I think, to solve this problem, because each person is not going to be able to do this without sharing not only what the OEMs need, but what do the customers need, and how can we come together to provide that?
So, you brought a lot of data to this podcast. I love it. So I'm going to ask you one that's been on my mind for a long time and never really asked anybody. And that is, what % of your business is like over the road, off the freeway sleeper trucks? And, what kind of, in the wild fueling you might get for things like garbage trucks or concrete mixers or towing vehicles? I mean, do you separate that with respect to your diesel fueling lanes? And is that something you might need to consider reshaping or changing?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say I don't have the exact stats handy on me, but certainly the majority of our customers are going to be what we would call over-the-road diesel fuel consumers. So these are folks that if you take that kind of average fill of 90 to 100 gallons, you can tell right there that most of our customers are going over 500 miles between stops. But as they say, averages are dangerous. That is certainly not all of our customers. That's just a majority. And so depending on the location, some locations based on where they are much more suited to over-the-road type customers. Other locations, maybe like the one I described in California, some locations near the ports, they may be much more of a local type customer doing local routes to the port and back, drayage type opportunities. We might have some locations that get more of your kind of UPS and FedEx style vans and trucks that are going. So it depends on the location, but certainly we are looking at exactly as you're describing, which locations serve which types of customers and which make the most sense to start transitioning, right? Our customers that predominantly are our stores that are predominantly served by over-the-road customers, probably not the first on our list, but the ones where we get that inner city type consumer, maybe that class 6 or 7 truck makes up a good % of the market share. We think we can step in and help that transition a little sooner there. But that's absolutely part of our math on kind of where we choose to do that and where we choose to wait.
Yeah, makes sense. And, in transformations, a wise person once told me, in transformations, you got to think about what you need to start doing to support the new thing. You should always, though, also think about what you need to continue to do to support the future, but sometimes think about what you need to stop doing. So start, stop, and continue. I mean, think about things that just, man, we've done it and it's made sense, made us money, but maybe in the new world. So I won't ask you that tough question, but you're going to start around all these different fuels. You are going to do a pretty significant test of some hydrogen fuel cell tractors, like real soon, like imminently, right? Can you walk us through? It's through a grant, I think. Walk us through that. Why that was important for you to jump in and do that now, and what are you expecting that to teach you, or what are you going to learn from it?
Yeah, absolutely. We're very excited about this. It's actually this week that we are going to go pick up these 5 trucks. They're registered, plated, ready to go. As part of a grant operation. And the fun part is we're going to be hauling hydrogen with these hydrogen fuel cell trucks. So one of the several businesses that our fleet is in is hauling hydrogen for several customers all across the country. And to date, we've actually hauled over 4 million kilograms of hydrogen in both liquid and gas form. We own liquid trailers. We own gas trailers. It's a business that we found a really good niche in it. We believe we can do it safely. And as we've been involved in this business, certainly we do a lot of work with, I would say, all of the major fuel cell OEMs, Nikola, Hyzon, Hyundai. I would say we think highly of all of them. We've tested all of their trucks. Certainly our plan is to eventually purchase trucks from all of them. But this grant sort of fell in our laps here, and we couldn't pass it up. And so we purchased these 5 fuel cell trucks to run in Southern California. And again, we're going to be hauling gaseous hydrogen to some hydrogen fueling stations for cars. One of our customers is the largest provider of hydrogen to fuel cell cars in California. So excited about that. We've tested the truck extensively. And once we get our hands on it, really look forward to operating these trucks in the duty cycles we described. Our plan is to not back off at all. We're going to slip seat, dual shift. We're going to long haul these trucks with all the lanes that we have, all the traffic that we face in LA. So we're excited for it. And again, as I said, it starts this week. So we'll certainly keep you posted in the future on how this goes.
Oh, I'll be out there. You and I, somebody. I want to talk to drivers. I want to watch fueling. I want to hear what they're saying. I mean, we'll let you get started for a few months, Jordan, and then Mac, if you come visit. Because I think there's so much opportunity, and as we close this podcast, I mean, I think we know that there's not going to be one replacement to diesel. It's going to be multiple. There's going to be some solutions that feel more like diesel than others with respect to maybe electric, and hydrogen might be in the middle somewhere, but it's going to be that I think is a given, and so that there'll be multiple solutions. So now it's a matter of folks like yourselves, your company, others, just like figuring it out, and I guess high risk, high reward if we get it right. But so as we close this, and this, I'm always shocked, Jordan, how many people listen to these podcasts, but it's a wide group of an audience. So some have been in the industry a long time, some haven't. So kind of what would your advice be to this wide group of NACFE audience on how to do things and how to make progress as well as be successful in the moment in this transition? So kind of what's your advice for us all?
We try to say here that we just need to be as optimistic as we can be about the future. And why I say that is, as you know, trucking can be kind of known as resistant to change in some cases. So people get used to what they know, they get used to what works. And, as an industry, we can't stick our heads in the sand and say, this is not going to come. And, but folks are often very negative about these future fuels. And we really feel like companies like Pilot at our size and scale, we owe it to the industry to use our resources to be the leaders who are testing these things, who are on the front edge, who are spending some of our money and resources to try out and help see what works. And I would say the same for the large fleets that are part of NACFE, Pepsi and Werner and Schneider and several others. These are folks that are spending their money and the resources of their company to test out the EV trucks and to test out the hydrogen trucks. And it's going to be these companies and these learnings that drive us forward. And I'll share a little bit of an example that I think describes it really well. Let's rewind. You'll remember these days back in 2010 when we were first figuring out diesel exhaust fluid, DEF.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of questions on, were engine manufacturers going to figure out a way not to use this? Where's it going to be needed? And once Pilot recognized that DEF was going to be a thing, it was going to be what the market needed, we didn't hesitate. We jumped in and spent literally hundreds of millions of dollars to get diesel exhaust fluid at every pump, because that's what the industry needed. And so I view ourselves in this transition as the same way, whether it's EV, whether it's hydrogen. We're going to watch, we're going to be partners with the industry. But my advice to everyone is, once we see something that starts to work, we need to jump on it, and we need to help push that to make this transition work. As I said, the companies with the large resources need to be leaders in that, and that's how we see ourselves.
Yeah, the great advice. I mean, it's important to study. It's important to demo and prototype, and then it's equally important to act. Jordan, thank you so much for being on. It's been a lot of fun. I got more questions than we have time for, but it's been really helpful. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much, Mike. And I can't say enough great things about McAfee and the support that you all provide for the industry. Again, thank you.
Take care, Jordan.
All right. Thanks, Mike. See ya.
Freight Efficiency with NACFE's Mike Roth and Friends.